These famous words were uttered by Prime Minister Winston Churchill in relation to the Battle of Britain, and the few referred to were the pilots and crews of the Royal Air Force. One of those few was Sergeant Raymond Holmes, and his actions in the skies above London on the 15th of September 1940 are the stuff of legend. On that day, Holmes was flying a Hawker Hurricane when he spotted a formation of 3 German Dornier Do-17s heading over the city on a bombing run. As Holmes moved in to attack them, one of them fired its flamethrower defense system at him, covering his windscreen in oil. Being an experienced pilot, Holmes knew that if he waited a few moments, the airflow over the body of his Hurricane would clear the oil off and restore visibility. When the oil did clear, Holmes was dangerously close to the Dornier and had to pull an evasive manoeuvre to avoid a collision. He dived under the bomber and into the clear. Having recovered from that, Holmes moved to attack one of the other bombers when something unexpected happened. As Holmes himself said, "I got to the stern of the aeroplane and I was shooting at him when suddenly something white came out of the aircraft. I thought that a part of his wing had come away, but in actual fact it turned out to be a man with a parachute coming out. I was travelling at 250 miles per hour. It all happened so quickly. But before I knew what had happened, this bloody parachute was draped over my starboard wing. There was this poor devil on his parachute hanging straight out behind me, and my aeroplane was being dragged. All I could do was to swing the aeroplane left and then right to try and get rid of this man. Fortunately, his parachute slid off my wing and down he went, and I thought, thank heavens for that." Holmes' attention now turned to the 3rd bomber, which was heading directly for Buckingham Palace. Not wanting the bomber to get anywhere near the home of the royals, he made his attack. The rear machine gunner opened fire on him, so Holmes pulled up ahead of the bomber and then dove down for an almost head-on attack. He got a few rounds off before his ammunition ran out. With the palace rapidly approaching and the bomber directly in front of him, Holmes did the first thing that came to his mind. Let's hear it in Holmes' own words. "As I fired, my ammunition gave out. I thought, hell, he's got away now. And there he was coming along, and his tail looked very fragile and very inviting. So I thought I'd just take the tip off his tail. So I went straight at it along him and hit his port fin with my port wing. I thought that will just take his fin off and he'll never get home without the tail fin. I didn't allow for the fact that the tail fin was actually part of the main fuselage. Although I didn't know it at the time, I found out later that I had knocked off the whole back half of the aircraft, including the twin tails. Yes, this brave man decided to ram the Dornier in order to protect Buckingham Palace. He literally bit off more than he could chew though. Rather than just nicking the enemy plane, he chopped the whole back end off. Some children on the ground saw the whole thing happen. After hearing the planes and the gunfire, they rushed to watch all of this happening above them. Jimmy Early recounts it this way. "We ran up to Ebury Bridge and I can remember the Hurricane seemed to go underneath the Dornier, which split, and all of a sudden, wallop, it came down in no time. Obviously, the Hurricane pilot had no care for his own safety. He couldn't have done. He just hit it and the back of it came off." While the attack was effective, Holmes was not in the clear. After the collision, his Hurricane refused to respond to its controls and began a vertical dive, at which point Holmes bailed out. He landed on a roof, slid down it, and ended up with his feet dangling in a rubbish bin. Holmes was put on the shoulders of locals, and after a brief stop at 1 or 2 or 3 pubs, he returned to his airbase as a celebrated hero. Holmes survived the war, and his last wartime assignment was as a king's messenger for Winston Churchill. Post-war, he returned to working as a journalist. But that's not quite the end of the story. In 2004, an excavation was done at the site where his Hurricane came down. Holmes and the remains of his old fighter were reunited. Those remains were subsequently displayed in the Imperial War Museum, a twisted metal testament to the desperate defence of Britain in 1940.